Well, you get one portrait being unveiled at the House of Keys, and then within weeks, another one. But this is slightly different, Peter. This is a portrait of your grandfather, I understand.
My great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
That is my grandfather.
Right, and you had two.
Yeah, great-grandfather, grandfather.
So what's the story? What are they here? What are they doing here today?
Well, he was a member of the self-elected House of Keys, and he remained a member until his death in 1852. But because there's no proper Hansard for those days, you can't tell what any of them said or how they voted. But his the greatest episode in his life was that his father, who was Robert Farrant, the first High Bailiff of Peel, who was also self-elected and died in 1820, he was picked out by Bishop George Murray as a test defendant to enforce the hated potato tithe, along with Caesar Tobin of Ballamiddle. And the bishop got a judgment in the Manx Exchequer Court, and then Robert, very bravely, and Tobin, appealed to the Privy Council, which was a very expensive and difficult thing to do in those days. The Privy Council, as was the custom of those days, took years, but eventually, in 1826, they gave judgment in favour of the bishop. Well, public opinion turned against the bishop very much when he started to try and collect the tithe. The tithe collectors were very unpleasant. And William Farrant Sr., my great-great-grandfather, he very boldly arranged a protest meeting at Derby, which he addressed in Manx and English, along with two other well-known Manx local preachers. And they got everybody there to sign a bond not to assist in any way the collection of the potato tithe. Well, now, under English law at that time, that was a combination. And the Combination Acts, which had been passed during the Napoleonic Wars because of fear of a Jacobin revolution, the punishments were very harsh: death penalty, transportation, and so on. So William was taking a considerable risk by joining and instigating such a move. But of course things got much worse, because afterwards the general public got very angry and the famous potato riots took place. Well, of course, there's no evidence that William Farrant, who was a considerable landowner and employer, I don't think he would have favoured violence like that. But of course the Duke's nephew, the bishop, blamed the Farrants very much for this. He was extremely bitter, and in the end the rioters more or less ejected him from the island, and he had to leave, yes, very bitterly indeed, and he went to become Bishop of Rochester. But he did his best to get the Farrants and others, principal landowners, into trouble over it. But because Governor Smelt was sympathetic to the Manx people, he was appointed by the Crown, remember, whereas the Duke of Atholl, the then owner of the island, who was made governor, he of course was powerless, and he was unable to do anything. So that's the story. And obviously William was a man of courage and independence.
Now, on display here today, what's the story behind them today? Are they going to be presented officially, or what's the story?
Yes. I've given this portrait, as my grandmother gave my grandfather's portrait, to the Speaker for Tynwald. So it will now be hung permanently in this building.